Throughout the PowerPoints, I've called a lot of brawlers unique, but Lumi might just take the cake in how underrated she is in her uniqueness. A brawler that blends the controller and damage dealer class perfectly is a rare combo, but Lumi somehow manages to pull it off. And in this video, we'll talk about Lumi's basics, and then talk further about her playstyle and nuances, going in depth about one of the most interesting brawlers in the game. Let's start out with the basics. Lumi has mid health of 7000 and a movement speed of 720. Her main attack sees her throw one of her morning stars, which then lands at the max range of the attack. Her next attack then throws the other star, and her final attack sees her maces fly back to her. While throwing her maces, they deal 1200 damage, and when recalling it, they deal 1800 damage. She also doesn't have an actual reload speed, as her attacks only reload when they come back to her. Finally, her attack range is 8 tiles, but she actually has no limit on how far away she can be from her maces to recall them. As for her super, Lumi creates 3 circular explosions in front of her. The first explosion has the smallest radius and deals 2000 damage. The second explosion has a medium radius and deals 2400 damage. The third explosion has a large radius and deals 3000 damage. The third explosion also roots the enemy caught in it for 1 second. Rooted enemies are unable to move, but they can still attack. With the basics out of the way, let's get to talking more about Lumi. Right off the bat, we can see there's a lot of nuance going on with Lumi, and especially with their main attack. Lumi's main attack is a very precise thing. You rarely can actually auto-aim it, and rarely can you spam it without thought. To gain the most value out of her main attack, you have to think like a controller. The optimal way to actually play Lumi is to usually have one of your maces on a choke point, or a narrower passage where you know people are going to walk through, and have one of your maces on standby at all times. What this allows you to do is have one mace for attacking enemies and then recall, and have one mace to use as a deterrent in an area. As for her super, it's a very useful tool, but you have to position yourself properly before using it. It can basically be used as either an assassination tool or as a tool to simply stop enemies from escaping. The root mechanic is especially important for Lumi, who thrives against targets who are standing still, allowing Lumi to deal lots of burst damage. However, it's important to keep in mind, rooting does not mean stunning, so you still may have to be careful, especially if you're at low health. There's been a lot of comparisons between Lumi and Carl, especially considering the fact they both throw projectiles that can later come back to them, and both are sort of considered as brawlers who are damage dealers but have a bit of controlling in that. But when you actually look deeper into Lumi's playstyle, she's actually a lot different from Carl. See, she has an affinity for actual control. What separates Lumi from honestly most of the brawlers in the game is that she has an attack on the map that can be deployed at any time in the game. If I'm not mistaken, the only other brawlers that can do that is Bo with his super mines and Otis with that one irrelevant gadget. But why exactly is this important? Well, it all comes down to psychology. A regular attack shot by the brawler is predictable for the most part. You can see it coming, you can dodge it, and it barely has any bearing on your movement on the map. But an attack that's on the map at all times, that's different. You know where it is, but you don't know when it'll be deployed. You take the risk in approaching that certain section of the map, which could be a very vital section to move through, and either take the damage or hope you can dodge the attack, or do you simply play it safe, avoiding the lane altogether, but losing out on it and not taking risks. This is the type of psychological effect that makes Lumi so effective and an incredible controller of enemy movement. Now let's talk about how exactly to use your main attack. When using Lumi's main attack, you often have to see the big picture. A lot of the time, you're going to be placing your maces in pretty unconventional areas that don't seem to make immediate sense, but as a Lumi player, you're always thinking of the big picture. It's very important to always keep track of the trajectory of how the maces will be recalled. The thing about Lumi is that her own positioning is almost, if not even more important than the aiming of her attack. Learning how to positioning yourself for recall can help you hit so many more recall shots, which is huge, as each mace hit is a very respectable 1800 damage. Tying into that, another important skill with Lumi is patience. A lot of the time you won't have the right trajectories, especially when it comes to having both maces on the ground. At that point, what many people do is simply recall the maces and keep attacking. Sometimes that might be the play, but most of the time you want to actually wait. The pressure that the maces hold is very important. and recalling them is basically loosening up this pressure. If you place the maces in an important lane, then all you need to do is be patient, and sooner or later someone will fall into your trap. Of course, it's important to always be aware of your game situation. If the maces have been there for too long, and you're just sitting there not helping your team, then you can just recall them. If you need the maces to fight the opponent, then recall them. The point is, with Lumi, patience is a virtue. Another skill with Lumi is the proper usage of walls. Similar to someone like Sam, often you want to use walls as a tool to have a more precise mace placement, rather than having the mace go through the entire range of the attack. This can be extremely useful in narrow passages, where you want a specific area to be hit. Lumi can also attack their walls once she is recalling her maces, which is useful when attacking someone like a thrower that's usually difficult to kill. Furthermore, walls are very useful for Lumi when it comes to bursting enemies down. Attacking at a wall reduces the total time Lumi has to wait for her maces to land, allowing her to quickly throw and reclaim her maces in a short amount of time. And this ties to the next point of mine, her damage dealer classification. I've talked a lot so far about how she's a very good controller, but I also mentioned that she's a great blend of a controller and a damage dealer, so it's time to justify that. Her main damage dealing capabilities stem from the fact that her main attack has no reload speed. This means that in certain scenarios, like a very walled map, she can deal lots of burst damage at a close to mid range. Furthermore, her damage output, if she actually hits all of her shots, can be very good. If she hits both maces twice, she deals an insane 6,000 damage. This is why she's especially good in Heist, where she can burst down the Heist seat, which she doesn't have to worry about moving, and use walls to her advantage to increase her DPS. However, despite the incredible burst she can have, she often struggles very much against assassin brawlers. This is because she struggles heavily in quick encounters. If it's a tank, she actually does quite well, as she has time to burst them down. But an assassin, such as Leon, who can surprise her out of nowhere, completely counters her. Lumi is actually quite a glass cannon, being squishy and very weak against assassins, while also having great damage potential. So overall, it's important to keep your distance away from enemies and never get too aggressive. Finally, and this is unfortunately important, Lumi relies heavily on teammates. Lumi will often die a lot if she's alone and unprotected. Her awful mobility and low health are a horrible combo for her, and the only way she can actually deal with assassins are by having teammates to protect her. Furthermore, even in regular gameplay, Lumi relies more on chip damage. She's never going to hit all of her shots, and she's more of a slow death brawler, preventing enemies from healing or getting to the spots they want to. For this reason, if you don't have anyone to actually capitalize on the pressure Lumi provides, then Lumi is basically useless. Now let's talk about her unlockables, starting off with her gadgets. Lumi's first gadget is Hit the Lights, which sees Lumi's maces each leave a burning area on the ground that lasts for 3.9 seconds and deals 360 damage per second. This is a mid gadget, as it rarely will actually deal much damage, but it can be helpful to get enemies out of a certain area. What's more helpful, however, is her second gadget, Grim and Frostbitten. This sees her create a mini Lu super for 3.9 seconds around her maces. This is extremely useful for control, and can be used very similarly to Lu super, but at a smaller scale, controlling narrow choke points and messing up enemy movement. Now, her star powers. Lumi's first star power is 42% burn, which leaves a burning area on the ground that lasts for 4 seconds on each explosion, which deals 20% of the explosion damage per tick. This is an alright star power, but the damage it gives isn't incredibly useful, especially considering the fact you'll be getting lots of damage during your super anyway. Her second star power is Half Time, which slows enemies hit by her recalled Morning Stars for 1 second. This is a very solid star power as it helps with brawlers trying to rush Lumi, slowing them down, and also for the opposite, to stop enemies from running away. Furthermore, and this is very important, it allows for better accuracy for not only Lumi, but her teammates, making hitting shots much easier. Lumi's Hypercharge is Drum Solo, which sees her final explosion have an extra blast on both sides. This is good but situational, as it requires their entire team to be together. However, if you do manage to get them all in the super, then it's quite easy to teamwork with her. Overall, Lumi is a very nuanced and unique brawler. Her maces can be used in such a variety of ways that it takes a long time to properly learn how to play her. And even though she's been broken several times, to me, I believe she's the best type of broken if a brawler has to be broken. a brawler that requires real skill to exploit, and a brawler with clear weaknesses that can be exploited, and Lumi fits both. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe to help support out the channel. If you want to support the content even further, become a member for some special perks like helping out in videos or being in videos yourself. And a big thank you to Hank Equals No Skill for helping me with the video, and finally, watch this video, check out this playlist, join the Discord server, or check out my music channel if you like the music in the video.